Okay, let's check and see if I am live. Oh, I almost ended the live. I literally almost just ended the live. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, I am coming on here for the first time at 9. Okay, so this is Yasheka at 9. And so I don't know how this is gonna go today, but we're gonna try this because we're gonna do this for 45 days. Mm-hmm. Because I realized that I got a lot of stuff to talk about. I got a lot of stuff to talk about, so I might as well just start talking about it, okay? Because I realize that my life and the things that I've endured, or the things that I've overcame, or the lessons that I've learned from a lot of things is useful information to other people, right? I'm learning that. I'm learning that my trials and tribulations and the lessons that I've learned in my life being from where I'm from and the things that I've accomplished and how I've accomplished them, I'm realizing that these are things that other people want to know. Because when people are able to see themselves in you, they realize then that they too can achieve things, right? And I didn't know it was a big deal until I started realizing it was a big deal, because I always just kind of kept my head and eyes straight forward, or looking, I never knew what was going on to the left and to the right of me. And so what I recognize now is that it's a story. It's definitely a story. But before we get into all of that, because I have something coming up soon, where part of my story will be broadcasted real soon. I had a trip to LA last week or so, and I was able to sit down with someone and give them a interview about some of the things that I've some of the things that I've experienced in life. And trust me, I've had an amazing life. I continue and have had an amazing life, and it continues to be amazing. And so there's no anything, but I just didn't realize that, you know, the way that I live my life and the gratitude that I show for life is contagious. Okay, it's contagious, and I'm realizing that. Well, anyway, today we wanted to start talking about more about self-actualization, and I realized that that is not a word that people use every day. But if you've done any research about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then you'll see that self actualization is something that you achieve after all your basic needs have been met. And what I'm discovering in life is that a lot of people are still trying to get there because they feel as though certain needs haven't been met. They still don't feel safe. They still worry about how they're going to continue to keep a roof over their head, or food on their tables and things like that. But what if I told you that you can do all those things, right, and still be the person that you are supposed to be in this life, the person that you are meant to experience in this life, right? A lot of us tend to hide who we are, or shall I say, negate some of our characteristics because we don't want to come off too much. And I remember being that way as a young girl. I remember being that way as a young girl because no matter what I did, it just seemed like people would always notice me. And so, because people would always notice me, it felt like I had to always be on. And sometimes I didn't want to be on, right? Sometimes I didn't want to be on, whatever that meant to me in my mind at that time. But it just felt like people were always watching me, right? And so, what I realized is that even when I was trying to minimize myself, that if you're being seen and you have a light, it's going to happen. And that's just the way it is. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a blessing. And so, when we talk about self-actualization, some of the things that we have to talk about is the things that build us up to that level, right? And today, to start off this Yasheka at 9, or live with Yasheka at 9, okay, for the next 45 days, today we are talking about self-awareness and what self-awareness just really is, because it's really just it's not just really knowing yourself. It's also being honest and seeing yourself and checking yourself and choosing to evolve when you know that there are some things that are not beneficial to you to grow, right? Some things that we may pass on from one child to, or from us to a child, things that may have been passed on from us to, or from our parents to us. And When I think about self awareness, it brings me to one of the things that I had to be aware of, especially now that I am a girl mom, right? Because I didn't realize it. My nose keep itching. I didn't realize it in the beginning, that I had, that there was this thing about, me being a girl mom, or when I was a boy mom. I didn't realize that there were certain things that I would transfer. And one thing that I recognized that I started to transfer, or that I had to make sure that I didn't transfer, is body image, right? And so here's the thing: when I was a kid, I had this concept that I was supposed to have been a size 2 all my life, right? Like in my mind, I was supposed to have been a size 2. Now, right now, pound for pound, I am probably the size I was in high school. Like by the time I graduated high school and joined the military, and I've said this before, I was already like 175, 180 pounds, right? And to this day, I'm still that 175, 180 pounds. And so back then, as a young girl, when I was getting to that age, because even at 16, I was about maybe 150, 160. I was still 5'7", 5'6", 5'7", and I was, but as a young girl, you don't want to have that much weight. But I was strong because I was messing around with weights. I was doing shot put and dish throw in school and things like that. So I was a very strong girl. Like literally, I was pumping weights. Like I could lift my body weight or bench press my body weight as a 16, 17-year-old girl. Well, with that being said, it still didn't matter to me that I had strength. What mattered to me was that I wasn't a size 2 like everybody else. So as I became a young adult, from childhood to young adult, this was something that I really, really focused in a lot of, was trying to maintain the weight or not get too much bigger, or trying to get smaller, right? Because I still had that desire in my mind to be a certain size. But then when I started having children, what was crazy was when I started having children, I gained, with both of my kids, I gained 87 pounds with both of them. 8 years apart, 87 pounds. And I got back right back to my pre-pregnancy weight. And I couldn't understand why, because I'm like, well, if I was able to lose this 87 pounds, why can't I lose more and get past this 175 or whatever, right? This 175, 180. And I just couldn't understand why. But my body was what you call, it was the normal weight, right? Now, what I didn't know was that my old self was looking out for my future self, because the weight that I am now is acceptable. Now I'm not saying that it's still a healthy weight, but in today's society, it's not judged at being 5'7", 175, 180 pounds as it was back in the 90s or in the 80s, right? It's not viewed the same, especially in our culture as black people. And so anyway, I didn't know that, hey, this weight now is almost gold weight for some people. And I didn't realize that. But back then as a child, I didn't understand that. And I didn't know we would come to this, because again, the people around me, the women around me, or the young girls around me, were size 2s or 3s. They were 100, 120 pounds soaking wet. So when I had boys, that wasn't something that I necessarily thought about much, right? Because with them, boys, you tend to not really, because for them it's like boys eat, they play, they're more active than girls, they do things, and so I never really worried about certain things with them. However, when I got my daughter in 2013 is when I started to pay attention to me being this way, because at that point when she started to walk, I mean, when she was a year old, she was really chunky, and my mom would just feed her all the time, and I'm like, Mama, we're not gonna make this baby overweight, and she's like, babies need to eat. Y'all know how older people is. They believe in feeding children. They believe in just feeding them, feeding them, feeding them. And so I right away started to think about that. And that was something that my mom even questioned me about, like, oh my God, I hope you don't be with her the way you are with yourself and pertaining to weight. But what she failed to realize was that the way that I was with my weight, I also got it from her. She got it from her mom, right? So these are things that we were passing down. Like I remember my mom used to be really, really particular about her weight. She was always 120, 130 pounds when I was a young girl. So even I seen that, and I couldn't understand why I was so much bigger. And my grandmother was the same size as my mom. And so for me, I'm just like, okay, but why me? And so I had to explain to her that this is something that I didn't realize. But now I have to realize, because I have to be self-aware, that I could potentially pass this ideal down to my daughter, in terms of having this belief or being self-conscious. Now, I'm not saying don't care about your weight or don't care about it. I'm not saying that, but don't be so obsessed with it, because when I was a kid, I was trying all kind of things. I was trying all kind of grapefruit diets and cabbage diets, because we didn't have the internet back then. So things were a little different. You had to find out something, like you might get a copy of the what is it, the 500 calorie a day diet, where you had to eat like a little bowl of ice cream, and you had to eat beets and stuff. And that's when I discovered I don't like beets, all right? So I remember as a young girl trying these different things, because again, I still wanted to be a size 2. I still wanted to be 100 pounds, 110 pounds, right? And so I would do these things. But now as an adult, I understand that, hey, first of all, some things just are the way they are. And for me to be able to have the strength that I had in terms of body weight, in terms of the strength that I had in terms of power, I felt like, you know what? I'm the ideal size. I am the ideal size. However, I had to become self aware of this, because I don't want to pass this down to my daughter. And so I want her to be aware of herself at all times, because we can't ignore the fact that the way we feel about ourselves in terms of our body and our looks does present itself to the outside world. We can't pretend that it doesn't have an effect on our self-esteem and the way we show up, because it does. Everything has an effect. So I need to make sure that she understands that. So by me saying to her, understand that this is something that you need to be aware of. However, I don't want you to be so obsessed with it that you become like me as a young girl and don't understand, right? Because this is not always a positive thing, because it comes with its own issues. It comes with its own, things. People become, they start regurgitating their food up. They start doing things like everybody handles things differently. So I don't want her to do things because she feels like she has to maintain a certain weight because she watched me, right? Because the way she does it may be different than me. It may be more detrimental for her than it was for me, right? So yeah, so when I talk about self-awareness, that's what I'm talking about. Really being aware of the things that you do and knowing yourself. It's not really like knowing yourself, it's being aware, seeing yourself, checking yourself, and still choosing to evolve, because these are things that you don't want to pass down. These are things that you don't want disrupting your peace. These are things that you need to, what did it say, your needs before you bleed on people who didn't cut you, right? Whatever. Yeah, that's self-awareness. Means you stop outsourcing your growth to trauma and drama, right? You have to be able to acknowledge that there are some things within yourself that you have to be able to change. Now, I'm not saying that all these things are bad or good or indifferent. All I'm saying is that when we are self aware of our isms or our left and rights or what we have going on, or even the mental blocks that we have in life, these are some of the things that if we don't become aware of them, they can stop us from getting to that level of self-actualizing, getting to that happy level, because some of the things that we believe are not ours. They are things that's been passed down to us, right? Some of the things that we believe are things that's passed down to us. And so because of those things, sometimes it keeps us in a box and we're not self-aware that we're doing things not knowing why, but because if it was ingrained in us. It was ingrained in us by maybe our parents, by maybe our ancestors, whoever had an impact on your life. And not all these things were good. But we have to remember that, okay, you can feel this way about something, but why? And if you are passing this down to a child or somebody, right? They need to know all aspects of it. Don't just give them a half story because I said so. That's not an answer, right? That is not an answer because I said so. You want to explain. So for me, even with my daughters and even with my bonus daughters when they were kids and my nieces, like I remember having conversations with my eldest niece, and we talked about weight, and I remember that being a big thing for her when she was a kid because she didn't like it. But now as an adult, she understands. She completely understands because, like I was trying to tell her, genetically, because she's built up like me, her weight is like mine. Genetically, I already know that you're not going to be a size 2 either, right? So what I'm saying to you is that you can't be out here eating everything that everybody else eats, or you can't just be, because everybody's body not the same, and it's just that simple. And so when you were a kid, you may not understand it. And I know this was something that I brought onto her, but I explained it to her in a way that she understands. And not as an adult, or even when she was a young teenager, she understood it. Because listen, trying to get weight off or whatever is a lot. So you want to try to keep yourself in a position, right? But when we pass down those lessons, because we're now self-aware, we have to know why. We need to explain. We need to be thorough so that the young adults and the kids and our children and things like that, they will understand. So when they choose to pass this down to their kids and so on and so forth, they'll know why, as opposed to just because we said so, right? And so that is wrapping up day one. Listen, I think I can really get used to this. So if this is your first time checking me out, I am Yasheka Foster. I am a life coach, a life strategist, a self-actualization coach. And if you are ready to work with me, DM me or leave a comment down below, right? And I'll also link it up top where you can schedule a QT call with me, a consultation, right? You might not know if I'm the person for you, but anyway, check me out again tomorrow. Is Did I title it Yasheka Live at 9 or 9 Live with Yasheka? No, Yasheka Live at 9. That's what it is. Anyway, listen, we're gonna get through this, the self actualization, because I want everybody to live their best selves. I want their best lives. I want everybody to be able to be who they are meant to be in this life without even without asking for permission. And I think that's the biggest thing that people do, is wait on somebody to give them permission. You don't have time to wait on that. There's nobody going to give you permission, because why? People don't want to see you grow if it means leaving them behind. All right? You don't need permission. But in order for you to get to that part, so you won't question things and you won't say, well, why is this? There's levels, there's steps. And today, self-awareness was where we start. And so continue on this ride with me for the next 45 days, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 9. Bye.